Hello there, and welcome to Play the Game with Steve. Storm, Ultimate Guide, an Understanding the Mechanics video. In this video, we take a look at Storm's signature cards, her nemesis set, but most importantly, we're going to take a look and explore the strategies and synergies that we can find within her hero kit and each of the different aspects of the game. So if you're new to the channel and you like this type of content, give me a big thumbs up, a like, and a comments are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. We are so close to the 2K sub. I think we're like 5 people away. So please subscribe if you haven't done it yet. All right, let's start off with Storm Aurora Monroe. It's Aurora Monroe. Has a 10 hit points, a hand size of 6, recovery of 3. She is a mutant, and she will begin the game with a weather deck, and then you can see the insert. And then I feel a storm coming. It is a setup that you choose a support from the weather deck and put it into play. So remember, setup happens after the mulligans. All right. As her hero side, she is Storm, the X-Man. She has 10 hit points still, hand size of 5, thwart of 1, attack of 2, defense of 1. She has weather control. As an action, you swap your weather support in play with a support of your choice from the weather deck, and then you will resolve the special ability on your weather support in play. Limits 1 per round. So great job here for the devs to really give you the feeling of controlling the weather. Now, speaking of the weather, let's go talk about this weather deck. Now, one thing I want to talk about weather deck. So if you're playing in a solo player, as a solo player, this is super strong. It's extremely controlling. Every card has a great effect. Where this gets challenging, and I think where most people fear the Storm, is, and I see the play on words here, is in a multiplayer scenario in where you're playing 3, 4, or 2, 3, 4 players. Choosing the right weather for the right time, I think this is going to be the biggest challenge, and where I think most people are going to shy away from Storm in a multiplayer. Although she can be extremely powerful, there's little tricks that we're going to find that I'm going to share with you on how to deal with that. So let's take a look at the weather. All right, so first she has the clear skies. So this is another permanent. It has the weather trait, and each character gains stalwart, means we cannot get stunned or confused. If you are stunned or confused, this will remove the stun that you have. So that is great playing against the Infinity Stone deck, or a lot of the villains that can stun and confuse you. This is an amazing card. Her special is to draw a card. So great thing here, and then we'll talk about strategies with each weather in a little bit. Then we have the Hurricane, rock you like a hurricane. Again, a permanent with the weather trait. Each character gains retaliate 1, and then as a special, you'll remove 2 threat from a scheme. So each character gains retaliate. Interesting. We can definitely find some ways to play off of that. Then we have the Blizzard. All right, so that's where you need, what's his name, Rudolph here to come out. And it's a permanent with the weather trait. It says each character gains -1 attack. All right, and the special, you'll choose a non-elite minion. And until the end of the next round, treat that minion's tech box as if it were blank except for traits. So you're nerfing a minion. And then as the final weather, it is the Thunderstorm. Thunder. I'm done. Okay, permanent with the weather trait. Each character gets +1 attack, and a special deals 2 damage to an enemy. So that is free. So if you're thinking about this, if you look at these cards in a whole, so one of them draws you a card, the other one gives you retaliate. One's more defensive, one's more control. One is like, oh, I can reduce the attack of the villain. And the other one is just, I can increase all of our damage. So there's little ways that you can kind of play off of them. So finding the right balance of where you want to start your turn, what the weather you want when you start your turn, and the weather that you want when you end your turn, that is what's going to make the difference in a multiplayer game and how that plays. So if you like these are the Make It Shine sleeves here. So going to Con of Heroes if you want some. send me a private message and we can ship some out when I get to the Con of Heroes. Still some room for that. Okay, we're going to talk about the weather strategy in a minute. Let's keep going with her cards. All right, so we have Aurora's Garden. That is a support card, a 1-cost location, alter ego action. You can exhaust the garden to heal 2 damage from your identity. Super strong, very, very good card. Then she has her Crown. So the Crown is a 2-cost upgrade with the, it is an item. Storm gets +1 thwart, so that brings her up to a 2 thwart. Hero resource, exhaust Storm's Crown, generate the printed resource on your weather support. So you were wondering why the weather had some resource icons? Well, now you know why. So resource generator, always good. And then finally, as a upgrade, she has a 3-cost upgrade called Storm's Cape. Gives her +1 defense and the aerial trait, very strong. And we know we have a lot of fun things that we can do with aerial. And hero response, after you resolve the special ability on the weather support, you can exhaust the cape to ready Storm. So she has a way to ready in every turn. So she can defend, very, very good. And then she can also ready. So these are very, very interesting. And I'm saying very too much. All right. Now, let's take a look at some of the cards that are her master cards. These are the cards that make this character what she is. And why? It's because there's 3 copies of it. Any card that you see in a hero kit that has 3 copies, it means that this is part of the focus that you want to put in if you want to build around this character. All right, so Weather Goddess is very easy. It's a 0-cost event, hero action. You swap your weather support with another one of your choice, and then you resolve the special ability of the support in play. So this is basically, you can change the weather 3 times in the same turn. So these are very powerful effects. We saw we have the damage, we have the threat, we have a blank minion, and then we have a card draw. So all of these weathers here, these weather goddesses, have a huge impact on how you want to play the game. Now, tips and tricks. You could use your ability here, and because it's an event, you can call for an action in a multiplayer game and wait to play this card until the end of the last player's turn and like call for an action before you're done. All right, guys, what do we need to change the weather for? So that's a little tip and trick in a multiplayer, keeping that weather goddess in your hand for, okay, what do we need to do? All right, then we're going to talk about Torrential Rain. So this one is the thwarting card. So there's 3 copies of this card. So there is a reason why this is a good card. First of all, it removes 3 threat. And if the hurricane is in play, you resolve its special ability. So that means for 2, you can remove up to 5 threat, which is extremely good. And that's the one that has the retaliate on it. So you can kind of think about that when you're building. I'm like, why is there 3 copies of this? So, you know, this is a good way and to start thinking about, okay, she's got a lot of threat removal in her kit. Let's see if we can play off of that. Then we have the Flash Freeze. Obviously, we're trying to build off all these weather cards. So the Flash Freeze, it says, Hero Interrupt, a defense card as well, which is awesome. When the villain attacks you, the villain and each minion engaged with you gets -3 attack while attacking you this phase. If Blizzard is in play, you resolve its special ability. Now, this is incredible. So not only does the villain get -1 attack from the Blizzard weather, which is crazy. So the Blizzard gives -1 attack. Now every minion and every villain attack against you is going to be -3, -4 attack. That means you're not taking any damage because obviously it's a Blizzard. So -4 attack. So then you can think about that as like, oh, how can I build around that ability where I might want to try to get the villain to attack me a couple times. So we're going to look into that a little bit better. So that is a great card that you might want to think about building around. Then obviously we have the Lightning Bolt. So for a 3-cost attack superpower, deal 8 damage to an enemy, and if Thunderstorm is in play, you resolve its special, which deals 2 extra damage. So the lightning bolt, not only does it deal 2 extra damage, it's a web kick on steroids. So very, very strong. But again, if you have the thunderstorm out, it is going to give you a +2. So that is a very strong attack. That is a kill card. 10 damage. 3 for 10 damage is Wonderbar. And then the final one is Blast of Wind. So this is kind of like our AoE damage. So it damages everything. You choose a player. It is a 3-cost event superpower. You deal 3 damage to the villain and each minion engage with that player. And then you resolve the special ability on your weather support. So whatever, if it's the blizzard, you'll resolve that. If it's the thunderstorm, if it's the clear skies or the hurricane. So it's 3 for 3 damage on everything and either a card draw, either 2 damage, 2 extra damage, or remove 2 threats. So this is an incredible card as well that plays off of what kind of weather we're having. So that is it for our hero kits. As you can see, it's very, very event-based. And all those events are based on the weather that is happening right now. So we're going to take a look at how we're going to build and play around with that in the different aspects. But now let's take a look at her obligation, which is claustrophobia. It's a give to the Aurora Monroe player. You have to flip to alter ego form. You cannot change forms. Okay, so you are stuck. So it flips you. You are stuck in alter ego. This flips you and you are stuck there. And then you can't go back to hero form. So if you ever got exhausted, then you're stuck here for 2 turns. Alter ego action. You can exhaust Aurora Monroe and remove this from the game. So again, so you're wasting a hero action. But if you have your crown or your cape and you just trigger your water. So it's not a very hard obligation to play around. So for me, it's pretty simple. Then we have her nemesis, which is Callisto, a 1 scheme, 3 attack, elite, and a Morlock with 5 health and quick strike. She has a force interrupt. When a knife fight treachery is revealed, you give Callisto a tough status card. All right, and the side scheme that comes out is leader of the Morlocks. Callisto, it is a 2 per player with an extra boost icon and 3 pips that says when defeated, the player who defeated the scheme searches the encounter deck and discard pile and set aside area for the knife fight and reveals it. All right, so let's take a look. What are those knife fights that we're so scared of? There's 2 copies of that knife fight. It's alter ego. It's going to surge. So if you defeat this in some way and you're in alter ego, it's just going to surge. You will get an extra card, and then you will reveal that extra card on step 4 of the villain phase. You reveal the cards at the end. All right. And then in hero form, you'll choose an enemy with the highest attack, and then take damage equal to its attack, and then deal damage to that enemy equal to your attack. So again, you're going to just trading blows as a knife fight. Beautiful. And then finally, we have the Switchblade. You'll attach to the minion with the highest printed attack. Otherwise, this card gains Surge. This has to go on a minion. It cannot go on the boss. And attached minion attack gain Piercing and +2 attack. So very strong. That's a pretty good Nemesis set. It's got all these little ways that it might just surprise kill you. So that's always interesting. I like that. All right, and then if you guys are a fan of the X-Men show in the 1990s, or was it 80s? It's the old X-Men, and then you saw Storm actually had a fight with Callisto in the Morlock Cave. So I thought that was very, very cool throwback there. All right, now let's take a look at some of the strategies we can use with Storm in the different aspects. I think the first one, and the most obvious one in aggression, is bringing the rush strategy to life here with Thunderstorm, giving every character +1 attack. So that obviously is going to be a recipe for some really, really strong, interesting builds by adding tons of allies, and especially in aggression, there's so many cheap allies. A 2-cost Sunfire, 2-cost Hulk, Hulk who can do 4, maybe even 6 if you build with a lot of physical. Throg, who can attack for 3, comes in with a tough. Spider-Girl, who can attack for 3. A 2-cost ally that can attack for 3 and block for you is incredible value. Bug, you can actually enjoy him as well, even that he's a guardian, and now he's punching for 2, and if you attack as well, you get to heal him. So that is some very cool synergies. Thor comes in with a tough 4 attack, spend the lightning, you can wipe out a bunch of minions one shot. Brawn, again, attacks for 2, removes threat, so you can focus on what you want to do. I think some of my favorites, I think my 3 favorite allies with this strategy are Angela. Yes, you get a minion, but who cares? You know, you get a minion, you find the minion with the lowest attack, and you just don't care, right? You're punching for 3 after that. Wasp, if you spend 3 lightnings, you can punch for 4 and deal 12 damage with Wasp in 3 turns. That's just bonkers. And I think my favorite one is Tigra. Obviously, Tigra swinging for 3 and then healing and just staying in play over and over. If you want to add to that strategy, well, obviously you can make some of these guys honorary X-Men's. You can put some attack trainings to give them even more power. And then you can put the energy spear on Bug, and then Bug with an honorary X-Men. And there, now he's attacking for 5 each turn. That's just insane. And then keeps healing. And then if you play off the game times, and then you can heal those allies. So there's a lot of combos you can play. But I think the main strategy here would be with the Thunderstorm. It just puts a bunch of allies. And then if you play, you don't even need all X-Men allies. You can just put all of the cheap allies, put a bunch of honorary X-Men's in yours, and then also go the Team Strike route. So that Team Strike route is you exhaust your hero and every X-Men, and then your X-Men aren't even taking consequence damage. They're just wiping the field with everything. And you can, everything plus 1 attack just makes this card even better. Even if you have only 2 allies, 2 allies with plus 2 attack, man, this card is just worth it on that. Plus your hero, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 damage for 1, and you divide that how you choose. Insane value. So I think this is probably the easiest route to go with Storm and Aggression. Now, obviously, she has the aerial trait, so if you want to put in a dive bomb in there, why not? You should definitely consider that, putting at least 1 copy of Dive Bomb, because once you get her cape out there, well, now Dive Bomb is just like an easy auto include, right? It's an aerial, and then there's the other strike there, pitchback as well in Aggression. That's good for aerial characters. Now, the fact that Storm doesn't get aerial right away, or an easy way to get aerial, and plus her upgrade costs 3. So if you're playing Aggression, maybe it not be the best, because then you have to hope that you get that card first, and then you have to hope that you get that the event in the right hand, in the right timing. So the aerial strategy for Storm, I don't think it's a very strong strategy in a solo game, but in multiplayer, you have more time, you have time to build, so that would be a little bit more efficient. Now, one thing in an Aggression build, which I really enjoy, is instead of focusing on Thunderstorm and giving everyone plus 1 attack and just rushing down the villain, is actually going the opposite way with the Blizzard. Now, why would I choose the Blizzard? See, that makes no sense. It does start making sense if you're playing more events. So now, if every minion is minus 1 attack, well, then you're not afraid to go look for trouble, because the minions might not even hurt you. So if you have a bunch of 1/1 minions, one attack minions, you're just laughing. And then if you're playing the Flash Freeze, oh man, you're just laughing all the way to the bank. You don't need to be protection to focus on that strategy. Then you can just like go and get other people's minions. Because if you do get the aerial trait there, you can play with the get over here. So again, this is in a multiplayer setting, but this is a fun strategy. And then you can use the cards like Bring It to draw even more cards to set up your board even faster. Then you can use that big 8 damage attack with some moments of triumph. So your events don't get impacted by the -1 attack. So if you're filling your deck with attack events, then it doesn't matter that your hero has -1 attack. You can focus on removing threat with your hero and then dealing damage with events. And this is where you can have a lot of fun synergies. And again, cards like Toe to Toe don't seem so bad, especially if you flash freeze. And then it's I think the flash freeze until the end of the turn or until the end of the round. This phase, yeah. So there's cards that you can add to your deck to make this scenario more interesting, and just dealing tons of damage. So these are like the strategies that I would recommend exploring when you are building Storm and Aggression. So you have two. You can go the +1 attack, or you can go the -1 control draw type of deck. So this should be two fun ways for you guys to explore Storm in Aggression. All right, moving on to Protection. Now, obviously, Storm in Protection is going to be pretty easy first no-brainer. If you're gonna try to build off the Blizzard at the end of the turn, so you start, you can start your weather with something else, get the threat or the damage, and then end your turn with the Blizzard. Try to always make sure that you can finish off in that aspect. Makes this really, really simple to focus on perfect defense strategy, especially in solo play with flash freeze. That means everything -4 attack. It's just easy, right? We got the hard to ignores, Indomitables, electrostatic armors, unflappables, flow like waters, nerves of steel, and then we have the cards that make us draw with the defensive energies. So we can really build something very, very strong with that. So again, if you're playing in multiplayer, then you're adding cards like Preemptive Strike, which like now the villain is attacking you. So it says when the villain attacks you, so now you become the recipient of the attack. So that flash freeze still triggers. So the villain's attacking you, he's getting -4 to that attack, plus whatever boost is going to get him in the face. That's just so good, right? Even with Defiance and then Desperate Defense, so then you can just do that multiple times. Again, with Joe Costa, then you're just recurring that flash freeze, and that gives you 3 instances of that. But if we're going to push that strategy even more and we want to add the control aspect, we can just add the Get Behind Me's now, because that's just like, all right, we'll cancel whatever. The villain's attacking me with -4 attack. I'm just laughing and controlling threat and controlling the villain like a boss. Now, another cool way, again, I won't focus on the aerial strategy, but once you get her cape, you can add cards like Height Advantage, which just makes it a little bit more interesting. So all the attacks are reduced by another one. So that's -2 with the Blizzard, as long as you're aerial. So again, in a multiplayer game, you'll probably have time to build those, but that's only for 1 turn. So again, if you have the turn where you're like, oh man, I'm so set up, I'm set up like a boss, and then you can add multiple of those, right? So if you don't have your flash freeze and you have 2 height advantages, well then you have both. You still get the -2, just up to -3. And then the villain's like never damaging you, and then you can go that rate, right? And then obviously Nightcrawler is another good way here for that strategy of perfect defense solo. It's not as good as with Shadowcat, because Shadowcat guarantees she won't take damage, but then she has to flip the form, so it's a little bit trickier mechanically. But with Storm, it's just organic, right? We see it, it's there, it's simple. It's like, here, I'm gonna make the weather cold, and I'm just not gonna take any damage, and I'm gonna build my deck off of that type of strategy. So that is the first strategy that you can focus on. The other strategy we can go look into is Retaliate. So using the Hurricane and cards like Dauntless, as long as we have our max health, then we have Retaliate 2, so that's really, really strong. Retaliate 2, that's 2 free points of damage just for taking the villain attack. We can still combine this with Flash Freeze as a defense card, so we can still play around that kind of perfect defense strategy, but then it's going to be a little bit tougher. So you probably want to have your cape and what's it called? The vest there, the armored vest, to be able to boost your defense up to a 3 defense once you have that cape. So there's a couple more moving pieces on that strategy, but that just doesn't mean that it's not going to work. Even though you don't have your cape, you don't have to lean into that. You have always these tough allies like Armor that comes in with a tough, and still like she'll lose her tough for 2, and then she'll also deal a point of damage. Polaris that kind of does the same thing, that she can just go back in and then have some fun with that. You can have Rock Slide is another great example for an ally. Add a protective training to Rock Slide, and all of a sudden he's soaking up 9 damage. Like, he can soak up the villain's attack a couple of times, especially you can combine this with other things. And then obviously like cards like Pin Down. So now these minions are just hitting you for nothing and just slowly dying to retaliate. So that's a sweet strategy that you can do, especially if you have Retaliate 2. It's a 0 cost nerf a minion. Now again, if you're afraid of the villain starting to deal some big damage, you can play off those Judoka skills, the energy barriers, or the force field generators. Again, giving you this like invincible, impregnable bubble that you can play off of, and then really use that retaliate combo and just have some fun with that. So that is definitely a strategy that is fun, but I would only recommend this one in solo play, because the retaliate in multiplayer might get a little annoying, especially if other players are playing aggression and dealing a lot of damage. This is going to be anti-synergistic with what they're trying to do. So again, this is a good strategy, very fun to play. Again, you can add the symbiote suit, and then you're just laughing, adding the endurance as well to bump up your stats. So there's all these other cards that you can add there when you want to play into that protection strategy, which is very solid. All right, moving on to Justice. Now, for me, Storm and Justice is probably my least favorite aspect for her. The reason why is just there's nothing special. There's nothing very unique about it. There's no like real cool synergies, except that the fact that she can remove tons of threat. So if you're playing solo, you have ultimate control. Her torrential rains are doing amazing work. And then in a multiplayer deck, same thing. She can do a lot of threat removal in a 3-4 player game, managing mostly removing all the threat. Obviously, if there's a few side schemes that pop up at the same time, she might need some help. But if you're focusing on mass threat removal and multiple things, I think Mutant Peacekeepers with a bunch of allies, especially a lot of the X-Men allies have 2 thwarts. And if you add a few mission trainings like Marvel Girl and then Blindfold, Bishop and Dazzler and Banshee, these are the X-Men. So you can definitely play Utopia and add those mission preps to those. And then you're having like, oh, let's see how many cards we can put. And then you're cycling just these Mutant Peacekeepers. And then every turn, once your allies are down, just have such a blast. Again, focusing on cards like Meditation, especially if you're in a multiplayer game, putting 3 meditations and like kind of cheating an ally per turn is just very, very good. You can even put in some sonic rifles to get the confused if you want to go down more often. And even Eros with an honorary X-Men can do some real nice work in a multiplayer game. And with 3 Mutant Peacekeepers, yeah, you're exhausting. It doesn't really matter. You can change the weather to anything you want. Mostly, I would say go with the clear skies, or even stick with the hurricane or thunderstorm. It doesn't really matter in Justice because you're looking more for damage. But if you're playing in a multiplayer setting, this is a very, very optimized build, because again, with the Heroic Intuition, she can bring her thwart to 3 with the crown. So with her crown, that's a thwart of 3. And normally the Mutant Peacekeepers, if you have 4 allies, that's like 1 for like 15 threat or 14 threat, as if you have all the preparations. It's a lot of work to put together, but once it's down, once you're investing and you're just like, all right, I'll just defend, I'll just take the damage, flip to Alter Ego, you can let your board build and then just be like, yeah, I'm maximum efficiency. I'll remove 15 threat every turn and just be laughing. All right, now if we're playing more in solo, again, there's a couple cards. She is so good, especially if you keep the retaliate on, like the hurricane. That just just removes more threat every time you flip to that. So what you probably want to do is go clear skies. Start off with the clear skies or change it to clear skies, and then at the end of your turn, go down to the hurricane once you've done all your damage. So why would I want to do that? Because with torrential rain removing 5 threat, you want to take advantage of turn the tides and pivotal moments. So these are the damage cards, because Storm doesn't have a lot of damage cards. She's got the gust of wind and the lightning bolt that kind of deal damage, but those are expensive, and there's only 2 copies of each. So if you had 3 copies of Turn the Tide and 3 of Pivotal Moment, now you have 8 damage attacks, well, 10 damage attacks in your 40 card deck. So that's 1 out of 4 cards, which is really, really strong. And again, she can manage the threat on her own. So these pivotal moments are always going to trigger 2 for 5 damage, which is great. And then there's no threat on the main, or you remove the last threat. Well, Christmas, Turn the Tide, and then you can stack those up for some really good damage turns. Obviously, if you have the X Gene Depth Focus, you can also add Sense of Justice that pays for your torrential rains. And then once you're aerial with the cape, you can use those yawn rolls again to trigger the justice cards and all that fun stuff. So for me, again, it's not super sexy. It's nothing super unique. Storm is very efficient in Justice, but it is not my favorite aspect. But I still wanted to give you some deck building options and where you can kind of align yourself here with this character. All right, for leadership, what do you want to do? Well, most likely what you'll want to do in leadership, because there's a lot of allies, you'll probably want to focus on the Thunderstorm, whether just to give the +1 attack to all the characters. It just makes the most sense, right? You're just putting in all these cheapy allies and just having them punch for +1. Not the most original strategy, but again, in leadership, what do you want? Now, my big recommendation is, because Storm's cards are so strong, that deck thinning is probably going to be your most efficient route. What does that mean? Is like you're going to try to put as many permanents on the table as possible. And the best way to do that, again, is adding like cards like Ant-Man, Maria Hill, Kalu that searches for your events, Pixie that brings back X-Men, Gentle, Beast, and then going, the strength in numbers route. Because again, Storm's cards are so strong, even in solo or in multiplayer. Is just building a strength in numbers deck with her is the most efficient way you can go. If you're looking for maximum efficiency, I don't think you can do any better than a Storm strength in numbers deck. For her build, again, there's other characters that can build differently and could probably build it better. But for her, I think what really stood out for me was this strength in numbers build. Again, not super sexy, not original, but putting 3 honorary X-Men in there, so you can keep Ant-Man. You can pay him for 1, and then just add 1, and then boom, just keep him there. He's always a strength in numbers trigger. And then you can do cool little combos if you want to add 1 or 2 air supremacies just for extra damage. And then, oh, look, because of Pixie's aerial, and if you put a couple of Sky Cycles, 1 for Kalu, and then 1 for Ant-Man, then now all of a sudden you have 4 characters that can have the aerial trait. So now 2, and you're doing 4 times 3 damage. So that can be good in a multiplayer game. And again, there's all the things you can want to build, because again, Storm's deck is 90% events. You want to try to put as many permanents in your deck as you can to just really thin out your deck. Make sure you might get an encounter card every other turn, but it doesn't matter, because if you're drawing 7 cards off of the strength in numbers, or you're drawing 5 cards because you have 5 allies, so the Triskelion, Utopia, that's 2 plus 3 is 5. And they're all X-Men because you kept the X-Men tags on them. It's just value, because as soon as you're getting 2 or 3 weather goddesses, or you're getting your big attack, your blasts of wind, and then your lightning bolts, you're just laughing because you're doing so much damage and you're just controlling so much threat. And then your allies are it's just gravy with the allies. So that is one of the strategies that you can go. Again, if you don't want to go that route, you can always go with the cheapy allies with the last stand strategies, where you will just sacrifice your allies for extra damage. So then it's 0 with the Thunderstrike. It's 0 for 4 extra damage. It's just off the chains good. But again, you're not keeping any allies for blocks. So that's kind of like the sad strategy about leadership. There is nothing super sexy. Again, she had some fun things to do in aggression and protection, but justice and leadership feel very generic and not very creative. Not that it's not okay. It's just not, for me, I like to build with a lot of flavor and a lot of theme. But with Storm, I just couldn't find that in the cards, except if you want to have an aerial team. And again, to try to build that, there's a lot of comboing off of that. All right, now let's talk about the basic cards. All right, some of the most efficient basic cards that you might want to think about including in every one of your decks. Honorary X-Men, even if you're just putting it on Storm, is still very, very good. Deck thinning, side holster, even if you're not adding weapons to your deck, it's just one less card in your deck to bring it down as quickly as possible. Then cards that help you generate resources. Def Focus and X Gene. Remember, X Gene, you must be an alter ego. You must be a mutant to play this. I also really like Weapon X, especially if you're going to be flipping down. Finding some of your Weather Goddess cards. Again, just doing that before you flip the hero form, or if you need the extra card, because you do have to take 1 damage. So these cards can combo off. Endurance. Definitely needed, especially if you're not going with the defense strategy, or you're not going to be playing into the blizzard. This is always really, really good to put down. And then she can take a few damages, because once you do go down and you go and you plant her garden, and then she can heal for 4 every 2 turns. It's really good with the garden here. So a lot of cool synergies and strategies. All these cheapy allies like Forge, especially with the Thunderstorm, even Professor X for the free Confuse, Angel for 2, and Colossus. Now, these guys with Thunderstorm, punch for 4, punch for 3, and even Forge that can punch for 2 and get you one of your support cards. It's so good with her and the Thunderstorm. So giving that +1 attack with some of the basic cards, really, really good. And then if somebody is playing Phoenix, well, Soul Sisters is a definite add-on. As soon as you see somebody playing Phoenix at the table, add that card to your deck. Heal for 2 and ready. I guess it's just very, very powerful. Aside from that, some of the supports. I'm not going to put like the X-Mansion and all that. You guys already know how to deck in basics. It's super simple, but those are the kind of priority cards. That's going to wrap it up for this ultimate guide video. So thank you for watching. If you have any comments on those decks that inspired you to like, oh man, I think I'm going to try that kind of strategy, please let me know in the comments. I feel strongly that the aggression and protection really offer some of the more unique builds to Storm, and then justice and leadership were more kind of generic to that any character can kind of really build around those strategies anyway. So, but yeah, let me know. Maybe there's a deck in Justice and there's a deck in Leadership that I haven't thought about that is super thematic and super fun, and it's very much centered around Storm's abilities. So if you have that, please share. I will definitely check that out if you have a deck list and stuff like that, which I will appreciate. But on that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Yeah, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Reminder, boop, 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 put those notifications on. If you want to see the Watch It Played video, which is going to come out later this week. and you'll be able to see Storm in action versus multiple different villains, like I did with all the other ones. If you're wondering why I haven't done Phoenix, it's because with the announcement of what's it called, Next Evolution, and Cable coming out, I figured there was going to be more psionic cards. So I'm just gonna wait for Phoenix until that one comes out, and then we'll see how that goes. And then we'll do this ultimate guide once Cable is out. All right, guys. So on that note, and have a great week, and remember to just have some fun and play the game. Toodaloo.